right, very good. Mike, go ahead.
All right, welcome everybody, and welcome Brian. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. Welcome to a Zoom meeting. I'm sure this is not your first one you've had lately.
Not at all.
No. Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us. And thank you for all on call. I'm at a job site right now, so I will be leaving at 9 o'clock. But again, thanks for everybody joining us, the Best Practices Committee. Just a little background for Brian and some other new, maybe possibly, hopefully new members on the line. The Best Practices was formed 6 years ago out of the Strategic Leadership Council. And it's about really government doing the best practices. We currently have, I believe, 17 members, John, or is it 18 now with New Buffalo?
17. Yes.
And the goal is to widen our reach throughout Berrien County, because we all do better when we can work as one unit and to support each other and all the activities. But it's great having Brian on the line, because one of the first initiatives that was brought to best practices came from the village, township, and city building inspectors. The state come up with a law saying that each municipality had to have its own set of building code books, which would be rather expensive and bulky and difficult for all the communities to have, especially some of the smaller ones, and it's just redundant. So working with Bill Wolf at the county and the state, the county is able to be the repository of one set of books in a county facility, that if a building inspector needs to have reference to it, they can go there to this library and look up whatever information they need. So congratulations to the county. That was the first initiative from the best practices and really help things to get rolling. Over the years, we've worked with many other issues about non-biodegradable wipes in our sewer systems, in our water system. We've also been working heavily on parks and trails. We've worked with our legislators on a possible bill to raise funds via a bed revenue stream for all of our parks. But really, it's really a membership-driven organization, and it's really the ideas from the bottom up are very important for all of us. So at this time, I'd really like to just listen to what Brian has to say. I know an interest that they're working on is a millage to increase the Berrien County Parks millage. And what I know in the city of St. Joe we appreciate is Silver Beach. And that's a beach that we would not be able to take care of ourselves. So having a county park such as Silver Beach right in our municipality has been very, very beneficial. And personally, I see the value of this small increase on the millage to improve the park system. But Brian, again, welcome to this meeting, and let's all hear what you have to say. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you. And John, if you are willing to, I'm going to just take over and share a few items.
Yep, please do. You have the ability, Brian.
Okay. All right, so folks, if you're dialing in, I apologize, you probably can't see this, but what I'm going to do is just talk to you all about my background, show you a few slides, and then talk to you about what I envision over the next 6 months looking like. So if you don't know me, just about 18 years ago, I interned for the Berrien County Administration. At that time, it was Mike Henry was the county administrator. That internship was one, I was finishing up grad school at Western in the public administration program. I had to make a decision. Do I go intern for Al Vanderberg, who was then at Kent County, or go and work for Mike for the summer? And I've been personally friends with both of those guys for a long time. And I think the coin flip worked out. I was able to parlay that internship into my first manager's job, which was in Watervliet. I was there for just shy of 5 years. And Watervliet was an just excellent training ground for me. It included everything from DDAs to budgeting to grant writing to learning to drive a loader and on and on. It was absolutely the best experience for a young manager. I just learned so many things. And from there, I was recruited to take over as the assistant city manager for South Haven. And I did that for a number of years, overseeing their Department of Public Works. South Haven's DPW job was one that was challenging and also really fun. South Haven's DPW includes everything from streets, water, sewer, but it also included cemetery, parks. And then the big new challenge for me was running a local electrical system. And so with that, Kevin Anderson, my predecessor as the city manager of South Haven, decided to take a job change. He went to Dowagiac, and in the fall of 2009, I moved from the DPW building over to South Haven City Hall. And I was their city manager up until June 30th of this year. And it was just one of those full circle moments. Mike Henry, Mac Elliott started calling and convinced me to take a real hard look at the county administration job. And I got to tell you, as just a local government nerd, it was really, really neat to come back and sit in the hallway for that first meeting with the Board of Commissioners, and just thinking that 18 years ago I'd been sitting out there as an intern. So that's the quick summary of my professional life. Some of the accomplishments that we worked on in South Haven. Between 2006 and 2020, there was approximately $50 million invested in capital spending related to infrastructure. That included a water filtration plant that was built on the city's South Beach, major upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant over by the river, by the boat launch, and then just dramatic improvements with the local electrical system. We rebuilt every street in the central business district, embracing the full complement of streetscape improvements. And you know, as a resident, as a member of the management team, it was really exciting to see those infrastructure improvements happen. And then just like clockwork, to see the investments occurring on the private side. So major reconstruction of downtown businesses, the creation of condos and apartments, and just bringing more and more people to live in the downtown, just trying to create a truly vibrant downtown. Of that 50 million in total spending, we were able to capture over 10 million in grant funding from the state and Fed. And that was something that we were really proud of. We took a very aggressive approach to securing those grant dollars, and I think it worked well for South Haven, and it really helped encourage the community to proceed with the capital improvements. If you take a look at the screen, one thing that we just completed in January was the Economic Development Strategic Plan. And this is something that was many months in the making, and I very intentionally bring this up because you might see something similar occurring in Berrien County. So for the Economic Development Strategic Plan, we worked with a gentleman named Jim Hettinger. Jim was the longtime CEO of Battle Creek Unlimited. He retired from Battle Creek Unlimited and moved to just a few minutes north of South Haven. Jim may be familiar with some of you. He was the interim manager for Cornerstone Alliance prior to Rob Cleveland coming. So Jim worked with us, and what we tried to do was take a non-traditional approach to strategic planning. And that was one where we were pulling in business owners, we were pulling in residents, we were pulling in community stakeholders, as well as elected leadership. And as part of this, we even had what Jim called barstool sessions, where he would meet various business owners or active members of the community at Clementine's and sit at the bar and just pick their brains. And it was one of these processes that it was not fast, but it was incredibly thorough. And it's now a document that I think will age well with the community. I will tell you that keep an eye on this document, because this is something that as we get into 2021, it's something that I'll be actively pursuing with the Berrien County Board of Commissioners. Moving on to some of the other highlights that we worked on. South Haven has a real commitment to regional partnerships. South Haven Area Emergency Services provides fire and ambulance services. We just celebrated 25 years of SHAES, and something that I was thrilled to work on was an extension, a 25-year extension of SHAES. That's something that will allow the organization to grow and thrive and continue providing high quality services for anyone that's had an injury. South Haven Area Water Sewer Authority, or SHASA. South Haven City is 3.5 miles. Its utilities push out to roughly 20 square miles. So utilities go up into Casco Township in Allegan County, and then all the way out into South Haven Charter Township, and then down into Covert Township. So the spread of the utility network was quite large. And as we put together our annual budgets, our general fund budget was relatively small. It was like 6.5 million. Our total budgets would push up into the 40 million range, and that was tied to the utilities. It really came down to being a very pretty town that had a very aggressive utility growth. So between the water, sewer, and electric, we pushed those utilities out pretty far. We had shared police services. South Haven City provided police coverage to South Haven Charter Township. And I'm going to pause there and just talk a little about essentially trust building and a commitment to regional partnerships. So my entire time in South Haven, I tried to treat the township supervisors as I would treat the local mayor. And if they called, that was an immediate priority, and just trying to work with them to address whatever needs were going on that day. And I always viewed it as long-term, that approach was going to pay some dividends. And on a Sunday in the fall many years ago, I got a call from the township supervisor. Ross Stein called me and said, "Hey, Brian, can I come over and talk to you?" And so literally we sat at my dinner table, the one I'm sitting at right now, and negotiated a police services agreement. And it occurred on a Sunday, and it was done on a handshake deal. And then it was ratified by both the township and by the city council. And it was really a game changer. The township was no longer completely happy with the services they were buying from Van Buren County for police services. And the city was unhappy that as a closest car concept, we were regularly going out into the township providing police support with absolutely no cost recovery. It was one of these that was truly a win-win deal. And now we're about 10 years into that agreement, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. But that years of building the trusting relationship really paid off on a Sunday when the township supervisor just had it in its mind that he wanted to make a change. And that's something that it doesn't come fast, but it really, really can provide a benefit. Continuing on with the regional approach, if you ever come to the area and you see the Meyer store just off of the expressway, that store was built with a 425 agreement, essentially a short-term annexation. And the store is located in the township. The gas station and parking lot are located within the city. We did a 425 agreement to ensure that the engineering and the zoning were handled as a one-stop shop. And I can tell you that the day we cut the ribbon on the new Meyer store, and the actual Meyer family was there patting the backs of both the mayor and the township supervisor, I was just off to the side smiling, saying, you know, this is how you get deals done. And as the ribbon was cut, there was the approximate date of the completion of the 425 agreement. The city didn't use it as a money grab. The township didn't fight to try and see a significant increase in their total taxable value by partnering it was a win-win for each party. The city was able to sell electricity, water, sewer. The township was able to see a significant uptick in their taxable value. And then for the overall community, we were able to build it using the latest and greatest zoning perspectives. So there's a real commitment to plant life and pedestrian accessibility, and the utilities are set up to benefit us long-term. So kind of a win-win. But if you look at your screen now, this is the thing that I can tell you that I'm the most proud of. So the regional partnership approach, we sat down about a decade ago and we started talking about what aren't we tackling? And the thing that the groups all agreed on was recreation. And we had a local business owner who wrote a check for about $10,000 and said, I want to help the city and township better figure out how to do recreation. We took that investment and we created the bylaws and all of the various legal documents to create the South Haven Area Rec Authority. And as the Recreation Authority was created, just by complete happenstance, the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, based in Kalamazoo, was finishing up a deal with one of the heirs to Upjohn, who was donating property along the lake shore. And this just wasn't any piece of property. This was 26 acres of prime property along Lake Michigan. It's got 800 feet of beach frontage with a creek running right through the middle of the property. So as Shara was created, the Land Conservancy became aware of what we were doing, and a partnership was formed. We were able to pick up a 40-year lease of this piece of property and immediately go after grant funding to develop the piece of property into a natural area and park. And this has now been up and running for several years, and it's just a gem. It's an absolute wonderful place to go. It's dog friendly, it's people friendly, and it is completely embracing true handicap accessibility. We have a gentleman in town that was just fighting back tears, talking about that this was one of the first times he was able to touch the water in Lake Michigan because of the commitment to universal accessibility. So kind of heartwarming. And I can tell you, as a parent of 3 kids, I've spent just a ton of time at this piece of property, allowing my kids to just run and play. So this piece of property, once again, is that trust building, that example of building trust and then building those partnerships, which can then yield major improvements. So the Pilgrim Haven phase 1 then led to Pilgrim Haven phase 2, which is this. So this is the Porter Legacy Dunes, and this is immediately adjacent to Pilgrim Haven. And we were a couple of years into Pilgrim Haven. We were working on our second grant cycle through the DNR, and this piece of property came up for sale. And this is 48 acres with 120 feet of beach frontage with a dune. And the Land Conservancy sat down with the Rec Authority, and just on a handshake, we agreed to start a process of going after this. We were able to negotiate a $3 million purchase price. The DNR stepped up and said they would pay $2.5 million of that purchase price. And then working through the Shara and through the Land Conservancy, we're able to do fundraising to cover the local match. So for the cost to the residents is essentially nothing. We continue to have a really low operating cost for the Rec Authority. And we were able to pick up now 26 acres and 48 acres without having to tap local resources. So really cool story. And, you know, once again, as a local government nerd, it's something that I could not be more proud of. This is something that everyone has access to, and it's 2 pieces of property that we just couldn't afford to buy locally. And so neat story. If you ever get a chance to come up and visit the Pilgrim Haven natural area, just be ready. Your jaw is going to hit the ground. It's pretty impressive. So how does all of that build to what we're going to be doing with Berrien County? In a nutshell, it's going to be about trust building and building partnerships. Over the next 6 to 12 months, the top job is going to be managing the CARES Act funding, managing the COVID-19 recovery, the completion of the 2021 budget document, and then we will shift gears as we get into the first part of 2021 and dive into a lengthy strategic planning process. And my hope is to engage all of you as we go through this strategic planning process so that it's a document that will ultimately be adopted by the 12 Berrien County Commissioners, but it's my genuine hope that it's had its hands touched, or the document's been touched by dozens, if not hundreds of people as we build to something that is truly representative of the overall county. And then the last point, and this is going to sound a little bit corny, but it's truly a genuine statement. It's focusing on internal and external customer service, trying to treat one another, the management team, with just complete commitment to excellence, and then extending that out to the public. I've taken, I think, my total 15 minutes, John. I tried to rush. I will happily answer any questions from the group.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. I know that Mike Gary is probably up on the roof of Vineland Center at this point in time, so hopefully he's being safe, number one. Number two, on a personal note, I've known Brian for many years, not only in our time as young professionals in the community, but we've now turned into gray little portions of our beards in the bottom half of our chins. Things have changed over the years, but over the years, I've had the pleasure of working with Brian in a number of venues, not the least of which is in my time of representing Van Buren County in the city of South Haven. So it's been a huge opportunity for me to get to know him and to get to know exactly the kind of character that he brings to the job. I'm excited to continue to work with you, Brian. And I know that the folks on the call are going to learn more about your vision and where this heads in the future. So with that, let's open up the questions. Unmute yourself if you've got a question and just go right ahead. Let's go ahead and open up for questions and answers and see if we can't get into a bit more of a dialogue.
Okay, I'll start. Morning, Brian. What is your opinion or perspective on the current state of Eagle revetment installations along the lakefront in the county?
So,
Sorry.
no, this one is just so tough. Yesterday, John Hodgson from City of St. Joe, he and I spent an hour with Greg Weitkamp from Edgewater, and we're looking at Silver Beach. We're also looking at a potential partnership grant to go after having Edgewater come up with some better concepts other than just armoring. And I think that Greg's team, as well as the team over at Avonmarsh, have been just doing an absolute ton of these jobs, and that there are better ways to do this. And Greg yesterday spent probably an hour with us just talking about how offshore is another option. And that's something that John has been passionate about in talking with Eagle. And I think that for the county, we need to get louder in that conversation about offshore dredging and trying to just do beach nourishment to push some of that sediment that is sitting offshore back up to the beach as an option. And then we also need to be looking at placing revetment structures actually offshore to try and control some of the wave action coming up and hitting the beaches. It just, for me, it makes me cringe to just see the millions of dollars being spent on rock structures being placed along the shorelines, and knowing that all that's doing is making it more and more inaccessible for residents to enjoy the waterfront. Now, on the flip side, I've spent a ton of time on private property listening to property owners desperately trying to keep their houses from falling into the water. So I can see both sides of the issue, but I do think we need to, as a county, as a community, we got to get better about coming up with other alternatives other than just spending millions on armoring up the lakeshore. I'm not sure that really answered your question, David, but it's something that I could go on and on about.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Okay. No one else is gonna, I'll go again.
Hold
The,
on.
since
Hi.
you've been, go ahead, Dan.
Dan Faulkner.
Dan
Sorry. Let me turn my video on. Maybe. Anyways, Brian, ditto on Watervliet. I can say very good things about Watervliet. I actually started there on the DDA. I actually own a piece of property there, and working with Carl Bear and Tim Freeburn brings a smile. Anyways, moving forward, we're in Three Oaks, and there we go. Anyways, we're sort of down here in the southwest corner, and I know that a number of projects tend to go north and west, and working with you, I'd like to see if we can't show some focus here. Galeen, Sawyer, in that area. So welcome aboard, and I look forward to working with you.
I look forward to working with you, Dan. So Dan, I'm gonna post into the chat box my mobile number, and I would just encourage anyone on here, and Dan especially, just give me a shout. I would like nothing more than to get out of the office and come and talk with you and see what's going on in Three Oaks. So might not be able to do it today, but I will happily make it a point to get down and see you.
Brian, I think one of the significant factors of the relationship that you developed with Ross at the township, South Haven Township, was significant, and that's just one of the many stories that I know you could tell about how that relationship created a far stronger community and broader community amongst the elected officials and amongst the citizens themselves. So I don't doubt for a moment that you'll spend time throughout the county getting to know the elected officials as well as the residents. Any other questions that come from the community or the folks that are on the call right now? I know there's a ton of issues that we face. David, you brought up one that is just one of those significant issues, which is, of course, our lakefront itself. We've got a huge project, Brian, starting with MDOT. The connection of US 31 is underway now that the crossovers are being built on I-94. How does that fit into the economic development strategy of the county, do you think?
The economic development strategy right now is, in just being completely candid, it's up in the air. Yesterday, I was reading a note from Frank Walsh. Everybody knows Frank. So Frank's in Meridian Township, and Frank put out a statement onto the manager's listserv about losing Wayfair. Wayfair had committed to millions of dollars of investment, hundreds of jobs to be placed in Meridian Township, and 60,000 square feet of newly renovated call center space. And with COVID-19, Wayfair made a decision to just having the bulk of their staff working remotely. And yesterday they made the decision they were pulling their support for the opening of the new facility in Meridian Township. I think that we can all see this between our friends, families, neighbors. More and more people are working remotely. And so for us, this is one of those moments where if we're not thinking what this means to traditional economic development, then we're asleep at the wheel. I know that on both sides of my house, on one side, I've got an engineer who works for Consumers Energy. And on the other side, I've got an HR director for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Neither are going into their offices. Both have been working from home every day since March. And both have talked to me about the fact that they don't envision going back anytime soon. So for me, I meet just about every day with Dan Fetty, and we've been scratching our heads on what does this mean long term? And can we continue to attract major commercial investment, knowing that some of the biggest and best businesses are choosing to keep their people remote? And what does the interstate mean? Well, I've got to believe that easier access to moving vehicles around is going to be a good thing. But as it relates to the overall economic development picture right now, I'm really concerned about when and if we'll see a return to traditional office space. John, does that answer your question?
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, for sure, Brian. I think one of the interesting questions will be as this COVID recovery continues, and well, let's hope sooner rather than later we get towards recovery, uh, and as we see whatever that new normal is going to look like, that our downtown environments in particular are going to have some challenges to, as you say, refill some of those office spaces. I think one of the very good benefits, though, is that we have both a blend of rural and urban. We have a blend of parks and recreational trails and so forth. We have a blend of lots of other activities and things that really make Southwest Michigan, and in particular Berrien County, prime for an increase in residents. So both David Bunty and Michelle Height will report that there have been lots of new voters committing to Southwest Michigan, coming from, presumably, David, coming from the Chicagoland area. If that be correct, what do we think that might be, Brian, in terms of resource allocation? You just heard Three Oaks say, wait a second, we've got a lot of new people coming. Are you going to keep an attention on us? You're going to have a busy county, it sounds like, if folks continue to leave camp from Chicago and come to Southwest Michigan.
I completely agree. I think that David and Michelle are going to be the first line for seeing major investments. And I think that all of Berrien County has the potential to see significant investments. A couple of weeks ago, I do a weekly update that I send out to the Board of Commissioners. And a couple of weeks ago, the Record Eagle up in Traverse City had put out an article about just what I viewed is really staggering growth. And it was tied directly to people working remotely. And it spoke to not just people moving from Chicago, but people literally moving from Silicon Valley into the Traverse City area to work remotely and to enjoy just the quality of life. David was kind enough to host a luncheon, probably a month and a half ago at his hall. And just one of the side comments that was made was by Superintendent in New Buffalo Schools, just talking about the uptick in enrollment for the public schools, and tying likely to second homes and people making the exodus out of Chicago. I think that Berrien County, if we can truly push broadband out to the entire county, that it is going to usher in more and more full-time residents, more and more people working remotely, and more heads into the local school systems. So that's something that the Board of Commissioners has taken some first steps on trying to push that initiative. And I can tell you that I completely see the value, because I think that what we're seeing right now is likely to be a long-term remote work atmosphere for many months and years to come. And I think that Three Oaks absolutely could benefit from this. I think all of the county can benefit from this. I don't know what the picture is going to look like in 5 years, but I do know that personally, I'm seeing it on all sides of my personal home.
Guys, this is JB. I'm up in Charlevoix at the moment, trying to enjoy some fall color if the clouds would ever disappear. And talked to a local community leader yesterday. He said some of the Charlevoix downtown merchants are having their best year ever for the very same reasons that Brian's just mentioned. So I think it's across much of Michigan, but certainly the Lake Michigan shoreline has a huge opportunity to take advantage of this situation.
And on that same topic as well, if we're going to look and plan for the influx or the longer term residency of these Chicago people, there's a level of expectation of what services are provided in our community, and we have to continue to grow our infrastructure from a recreation standpoint, from services. I've been very diligent in trying to work with AT&T and Verizon cell phone service, not only broadband service, but cell phone service down here in Southwest County has been atrocious because we've had so many people here over the course of the last 8 months, and they can't handle the volume from drop calls to everything else. And I'll probably need the county's help and local legislators to assist in getting additional towers built or whatever is necessary in order to accommodate this growth. Otherwise, they won't stick around because they just cannot work from home or have the ability to work professionally from home.
Are there ways to quantify? I'm sure that AT&T and Verizon and the other service providers have proprietary information in terms of the number of pings that are going off towers, and they can probably see that there's a huge spike, David. I wonder whether there's a way to aggregate that at a county level. I'm not sure. Have you ever had any experience in digging into that sort of a question, Brian?
Not in that question, but I can tell you that we just approved an agreement with Merit Network to do the deep dive into broadband coverage for all of the county. I think that could be a very easy follow-up question to determine how good or how bad is the coverage for wireless. That's something that I will absolutely follow up with Merit and see if they have the ability to help answer that question. But David, I got to tell you, right now, I view us as being in an absolute fist fight with Wisconsin and with Indiana. And it's going to be the communities that have, just the best amenities to offer that are going to truly prosper from this. It's going to be broadband. It's going to be quality utilities, clean drinking water. And then it's going to be communities that they can actually enjoy being in. And my personal feeling is, if you're in a community where you don't need your car, that's a community you're going to enjoy being in. So what I see happening down in your neck of the woods, I think, is a real good indication of what needs to come.
Southwest Michigan Planning, of course, as you know, Brian, has a significant amount of information on this broadband question that will fill in the gaps that Merit may not be able to provide directly.
Yeah.
That's excellent. How will Merit benefit the county as a whole? What's kind of the vision on that, or is it just aggregating data at this point so we can begin to understand the problems?
It's essentially just back to, what we did in South Haven was the shotgun approach on grant applications. You can't do the grant application until you understand the problem. And with Merit, what we really need is a solid understanding of how good is broadband and how bad is broadband. And then we can start targeting the areas that are underserved, and either through the township, the city, the village, or even the county going after USDA funding, EDA funding, or some other pot of cash that is likely to open up. With the CARES Act, I can tell you that it's just amazing how much cash has been pushed into state government. And for any community that doesn't go after these pots of money, you're asleep at the wheel. And that's something that I'm just stressing to the County Board of Commissioners is it's going to come relatively quickly. And if we don't have a solid understanding of what our need is, how can we make the ask?
Excellent. I know Dick Stoffer and many of the other communities have had a significant amount of work on the trail systems. Dick, I don't know if you had any updates or wanted to share with Brian some of those amenities that Southwest Michigan has to offer, and in particular, the work that you guys are doing to make connections in all of our trails. Dick, are you on? It says that he's on. Pat, you want to speak to some of the work that's happening in the village of Stevensville?
Hi, y'all. We're doing some strategic planning right now. We're continuing to work on we've added the dog park to the Hickory Creek Park. We're looking at doing a pavilion there in 21 and hoping to be able to find some monies to do a ADA kayak launch there. We got a lot of work to do in that park, but it's a big, beautiful park right on Hickory Creek. So that's kind of in the walkability scenario. That's what we're looking at. We have almost a complete sidewalk system through the village. So that's good. We've got a couple areas we want to expand there. So that's probably about it at the moment. As with everybody else in Berrien County, housing is going like crazy. Houses, you know, put up for sale one day and gone within a week. So, you know, that's, I think, true for all of us right now. Our 1 square mile village, we don't have a lot of growth that we can do. There aren't very many empty spots, but working on it, and walkability is primary, and livability, we're, you know, missing a couple of pieces of business that would make the livability piece complete. And, you know, pharmacy and medical, a small medical office would be beneficial, but
You mean Watermark is not medicinal?
well, for some of us it is. Doesn't cure all, though. They couldn't help me when I broke my foot,
There you go. There you go.
but I didn't do it there, just for the record.
So as you can hear from Pat, there's a lot of work being done right now, and some of this connectivity between the communities and walkability, non-motorized trails, and so forth. So the dream continues. Lots of plans are laid out, and in fact, Strategic Leadership Council has been a part of some of that in helping to drive that forward. Brian, I know that you were able to bring a lot of disparate groups together. Thoughts about how we're going to bring our townships, cities, and villages together under a more unified plan of walkability and trails and so forth. Is that something you think that the county can be spearheading in the future? I know that there hasn't been a ton of work done on that area at this point in time.
Yeah, so it's my hope that that the county can play a greater role in this. And I've always viewed local government services essentially like waiting tables. And through high school, through my undergrad, I would routinely wait tables, and I worked for Clementine's, for Al Rupert for many, many years. And with Al, it was always the faster you move, the better quality of service you provide, the more you're going to get paid. And that kind of dumbed down approach is how I've always viewed local government, is being available, being accessible, being responsive is going to make your personal and professional life better, and it's going to provide an overall benefit to the community. And so how do we get more involved? It's as simple as give me a shout, tell me what's going on, give me a chance to come and meet with you, come and see the issue, and then I can figure out what resources we can bring to the table to try and help. I think that you've got a group of county commissioners that truly want to see improvements in their hometowns. And I think that they're willing to work together to make that accomplishment happen. I think that you've got a management team that is very eager to work with anyone and everyone. So I might not have the silver bullet, but I can guarantee you, if you got something you want me to see, call me. I'll come take a look.
That sounds like a good place to ask for final questions. Any final questions for Brian after we've spent a few minutes here getting to know Brian a little bit and recorded this so that we can share with all of our municipalities and remind them the value of Best Practices Committee. And as a reminder too, while Mike Gary wasn't able to mention it directly, we have all of the resources from Strategic Leadership Council that includes the resolutions that you all passed. And of course, New Buffalo is our newest member, having joined us recently by resolution and according to statute to join this collective impact organization as best practices. So any final questions for Brian this morning? Excellent. It sounds like we've had a good morning. As I said, this is going to live on with the publication of this particular event. Best Practices Committee Ask the Expert will be back in the future, I am certain, and bring new experts in like yourself, Brian. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, and it's been great to have you on to provide us a little background on who you are, what you're about, and we all look forward to working collectively together for the benefit of all of Berrien County and each of our municipalities.
Thank you all for having me.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Great call.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.